Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from Canada. We love you in Canada, Big C. We love them good old boys in Africa. You know we love the Big C tribe, and we love nobody more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 9th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's going better for us down here than those people that you're singing for up in Canada. I think they may put out a ATV on you at one point, Charlton, because since you've been resonating their national anthem, I don't think any of their teams have made it to the finals in any sport, basketball, baseball, or hockey. So, you know, I might have to disaffiliate myself with you if they start hunting.
Well, I tell you what, I was getting some hate mail from some good old boys up north in Canada. I'm defending their healthcare service. I'm defending a lot of the good old boy stuff. But since the hate mail started, all their teams been dropping like flies, Big C. I do want to tell them they better start loving on Big C. I want to tell you that Sexman is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You can use a car or you can drive a Cadillac. And Big C, I know in the world of sports, so many good things happen. It seems on a day-to-day basis. And when you look at what's happening in the world of sports, we have a lot going on in the world of baseball. A lot of good players having a lot of success, swinging the bats. But also this Boston and this Red Sox series, we love that. But I want to just touch on what's going on in the world of the NBA. We know that the teams are shaped up now. Golden State, they did what they had to do last night. They had a home game. They had a game where they were expected to win. But I want to get your thoughts on how it happened after I get your thoughts on the games, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I mean, Golden State handled business. I mean, the Pelicans had life for one game. And it's almost like the Golden State Warriors just relaxed in that game. After they got Steph Curry back, they saw that he was in the mix, Charlton, and they really didn't have to press the issue. They allowed the one game to be won in New Orleans. But one of the things you always have to look at in these series, Charlton, teams like to close out somebody at home. We saw that with Houston.
Yes.
They closed out Utah at home, so they didn't have to take a trip back home. You saw that with Golden State also closing out the Pelicans last night at home. Charlton, you like to reward your home crowd with a little, father, and that's what they get. They get a chance to cheer you on.
Yeah.
Being there, and it's almost like personal. I know you talked about King James the other night standing up and exalting the fans and everything, paying homage to him, Charlton. And that's sort of like what we got in these two Western Conference series when you think about Houston and Golden State. They got a chance to close out their opponents on their home court to allow their fans to take it all in. Because look at it from this perspective, Charlton. Just because you're at a conference final, Charlton, don't mean that you're going to be able to get tickets for the NBA final. Yes, a lot of fans will, but some fans won't.
Yeah.
So to have an opportunity to have that home team win in that semifinal, Charlton, getting to the conference final, it is a great deed, that the teams do for their fans.
Yeah, and that's a great fact. I do want to acknowledge one of my friends down in Vegas. See, I learned not to bet when one time I had this guy named Bubba looking for me, Big C, and he wasn't a nice looking guy. He was kind of mean, the kind of guy when he shows up is not good news, Big C. So I decided not to bet with guys named Bubba. But I look at point spreads because a lot of my friends are in that business, Big C. You know what I mean? And I think they were favored by 11.5 last night. There was a time in the game when they were up about 23, 24 points, but they closed out winning just by 9 points. So my friend in Las Vegas said, see, I told you can trust me, Big C. I'm not taking the bait again. So what can we say to fans who are so just naive and they can't wait until they see their favorite team win, and they know that all teams are trying their hardest, but a point spread can say, 11.5, okay, 11.5. They're up by 23, 24 points in the fourth quarter, and it happens to end where the game closes under the point spread. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you're trying to move money. favorites are favorites. You don't get an 11-point spread and expecting a team to lose, Charlton. And sometimes you don't even expect for them to cover, but that kind of lets you know as a fan, everybody understands.
Yeah.
This team is not going to win.
Yeah.
This is just a 5-game series.
Yes.
And, Vegas is in the industry of making money.
Yeah.
And when you look at 11-point spread in the playoffs, that's a large number. It's a large number in the regular season. But in the playoffs, where teams are more evenly matched, except for when you're playing Houston and Golden State, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got to throw the point spreads out of the window, because when you look at what they've been able to accomplish, and even Cleveland, Charlton, what they've been able to do in the playoffs as far as having these double-digit wins consistently, Charlton, in this, round of, before the semifinal round. They've just gone out and handled their opponents, Charlton, like the seedings that they are in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point we bring up, too. And when I look at Golden State, they look so good. At times, they look like they're not giving it their effort. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I know when we look at what happened with the sweep, going back to the sweep that we had when New Orleans took care of Portland, not too many people thought that New Orleans would sweep them. Some people thought they beat them, but no one really expected the sweep. And so now all of the talk and the joy was, oh my God, we're going to have a series in round 2. And I look at how great Davis is, Big C down there for New Orleans. They still are asking, people are calling me asking, have I seen some of the beats that left out when you left town? I have no affiliation with that. All I do is sing, Oh, Canada. I think a friend of Michelle Beater was singing Oh, Canada with the jump. So thanks for following Big C Sports, Michelle singing Oh, Canada. And also, Big C, I just want to get your thoughts. Davis, now people are saying, well, maybe they would have done better if they had DeMarcus Cousins. Going into next year, Gentry did a great job coaching them this year. If they can get Cousins back, could that have solved some of the problems they had in being taken advantage of by them good old boys from Golden State? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at their record with Cousins. You got to look at their record without Cousins. One of the things you have with Cousins and Davis, both, Charlton, is that they both like to shoot outside, and you don't have that big pivot underneath the basket. You saw Davis going more inside when Cousins wasn't around. But, Cousins creates a mismatch problems on both sides. It's hard to match up on him with a big man outside, but he can't play defense against a smaller player, Charlton. He becomes a liability. He was the same thing in Sacramento where, he was a guy who wanted to lead the team in three-point shooting.
Yeah.
That's what you can't have when you have guards that are supposed to play that role, maybe a forward who can knock them down. When you got your big man, we've seen a little bit of that with Heat in Philadelphia throughout the playoffs. But I think Cousins would be better suited to go to another team, Charlton. You think of teams like Portland who could utilize him as a big man. That was their deficiency against the Pelicans, Charlton, in the playoffs, is that they didn't have that pivot. We've seen how integral it has been with teams that have had a big man, how well they have played. I don't know if he will re-sign in New Orleans. I don't see it being an asset for that organization.
Really?
They made the trade, but he didn't upgrade that lineup. You think about the momentum that they carried once he went down, and you hate to see a player injured. But this, you're talking about a guy that's 6'11", 280, might be over 300 pounds now, Charlton.
Yeah.
Trying to get back in the mode. And players, big men, have not fared well from leg injuries. I mean, you look at Kristaps Porzingis in New York. They're talking about he may miss the entire season next year with a knee injury.
That would be bad.
We're talking about supportive joints when we're talking about knees and Achilles.
Yeah.
So those are problematic for big players. So Cousins, if he does sign with New Orleans, it's only going to be a one-year deal, 2 at the max, Charlton, because there's no long-term future for him with that franchise.
Yeah, and that's a shame, too, because I look at how much potential he has, and we know everybody has potential, especially when you're not playing. Everybody remembers you how good you were when things were good, but there's a reason that sometimes he gets traded from one team to another. I want to get your thoughts, too, and we talked about Draymond Green and his ability to get inside another player's head. And Rondo was being Rondo. He was trying to be truculent. He was trying to be an aggressive player. But I think when it's like a car that's not fine-tuned. When it's not running right, you can tell. You can just kind of tell. You know how you have a relationship sometimes and things aren't going that well, so you go home and nobody's talking, Big C. Yeah, nobody even says hello. You understand what kind of stress you might be under, wondering, I wonder what's going on, Big C. That make any sense, your thoughts?
Well, Ray Shaw's been down that road before, Charlton. He's been on a championship team.
Yeah.
So he was trying to inspire his teammates to be more physically and mentally aggressive in this game because, you know, when you look at the Warriors, what they can do to a team defensively, we always know their offensive firepower. But the pressure you put on teams defensively, when you talked about the Pelicans being down by over 20 points, Charlton, at one point in the game, that's the pressure that you put on a team defensively. And you know that Rondo has a little edge to him. I mean, even when he was with the Boston Celtics, he had an edge against his own teammates, Ray Allen, and he never had a great relationship because Ray got a lot of the pub, even though when you looked in the playoffs, Rondo was an all-star player.
Yes.
So he's not one that's willing to take a backseat, even to a Draymond Green. He's always been a trash talker, both of these players, throughout their career. But he knew, as a seasoned veteran, he could not let the voice of Draymond intimidate these Pelicans, and so he was doing all he could to stay in that same vernacular with him.
Yeah, well, let me get your thoughts, too, as we swing back across to the West Coast. I noticed last night when you look at Iguodala, you look at Draymond Green, Thompson, they came out of halftime, and it looked like it was a close game at halftime. Maybe it was going to be competitive down the stretch. I think they had about a 3 or 4 point lead, and something clicked in the third period where they pulled away. It's as if they woke up and they said, wait a minute, we're in the playoffs now. And I'm not saying that you can't give New Orleans some credit for trying, because it looked like they had some fight in them, at least in the first half. The second half of that game, they kind of did what those gazelles do when the lions get them around the throat, Big C. They kind of laid down, at least that's what it seems, until the last, I think a couple of phone calls came in from Las Vegas saying, hey, wait a minute, the point spread's 11, not 25, Big C. I just thought that was funny, how they closed down so fast. So any concerns when you look at Golden State? This is the first time that I can say they breezed into a playoff, okay? They breezed because it was too easy. It seemed a little bit too easy for me. If we contrast that with Houston's last game against the Jazz, I think the Jazz put up a bigger fight. What team would you give an advantage to, maybe even psychologically, going into the next series? Now, Houston's won. They played every game this year. They won except for one. Houston, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, didn't we just see that in the Eastern semis, second round with Cleveland and Toronto, where this team had won the division, had dominated the Cavaliers in the regular season?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, that team that had been there before didn't know how to back down. You know, and I kind of see that with the Golden State Warriors. This is a team that has been there. You faced Houston last year in the playoffs. And you know, the thing about the Golden State Warriors, Charlton, they remind me of a great jazz ensemble, okay?
Yes.
When they're playing and they're all in tune, Charlton, you hear every instrument.
Yeah.
No one overrides the other. They just play in rhythm. And you just sit back and you enjoy the ride. That's what you see with Golden State. You talked about that coming out of halftime last night. It was like watching a great jazz performance, Charlton.
Yes.
The piano was there. The bass was there. The sax was there. The bass guitar was there. The lead guitar was there. All the horn section, Charlton, was playing coming off the bench. That's what you get with Golden State when they're in rhythm. It's like going and just leaning back in the chairs, closing your eyes, knowing that you're hearing and witnessing a great performance. And that's what they do. They're not undaunted by their opponents, Charlton. You think about Golden State over the last 4 years. They've seen all the best that the NBA has to offer.
Yeah, they have.
Night in and night out, every playoff series. They've been challenged for 4 years. They've been challenged every night. So this is the team that doesn't wilt under pressure, as you've seen a lot of teams throughout the season and in the playoff series, Charlton, is that they don't know how to handle pressure. This is the team that's faced it for 4 consecutive years.
Yes, that's a good point, Big C. Anything with chemistry-wise, you know, it's almost like the first time you do something is so exciting. But by the second time you do it, it may lose some of its luster. You ever buy a new car? I know you don't wash your cars, Big C, but for a lot of people who wash cars, Big C, you wash them all the time for the first 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even the first month. But you go 2 or 3 years, you hardly wash that car at all unless you go and let somebody else do it. And I just want to get your feelings I want to get into your feelings, Big C. Remember that lady, Dr. Ruth Westheimer? I used to love listening to Dr. Ruth Westheimer. My upbringing was Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Yeah, she was a sex therapist. Yeah, I loved her. Well, I'll tell you what, my upbringing was church on Sunday, Richard Pryor Monday through Friday, and that Dr. Ruth Westheimer on the other days that I quit, Big C. That's why I'm so full of energy. I believe you can do anything, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to give me a big woman named Dr. Ruth, okay? Not little bitty Jewish woman named Dr. I want somebody who eat an old side of bacon, all right?
Yeah.
Telling me. I want it to be greasy. All right?
I understand.
As we look at how people interact,
yes,
in these fields, Charlton, and you're sitting there and you're trying to analyze and break down this series.
Yes.
When you look at Chris Paul last night, Charlton, this is going to be the first conference final that he's been in. It took him 86 playoff games to reach his first conference final.
Wow.
Is he going to be overwhelmed? I mean, he had his best playoff game in history last night, scoring 41 points against the Jazz. I mean, he was unconscious. But, now he's on that grandiose stage. Will he be able to compete? Now, James Harden has been on the gimp for the past 2 games.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit, a worry for this Houston offense when you look at facing Golden State. As much as they like to push the ball up, I've seen James Harden shoot a copious amount of air balls in this series against, the Jazz.
Yeah.
Now, there's a team that's going to constantly put pressure on him. And they're going to have a guy in his face all night long that's probably even bigger than he is. So that's the problem that, Harden is going to have to worry about. Golden State has faced him so many times throughout his career. You got to realize something. He started in the Western Conference. He was in OKC.
Yeah.
So they were accustomed to seeing him prior to him going to Houston. So he's not an anomaly to them like he's been to the rest of the NBA, Charlton.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to facing, and they're going to need some therapy. So, maybe Dr. Ruth will be standing there about short eye a lot of these players because she's so short. But, and a couple of the foreign players will understand what she says because she doesn't speak great English.
Well, I tell Dr. Ruth taught me and a lot of other young boys things that men and women need to know about reality, how to do your own checkup, how to do what they call checkup for the neck up, and also paying attention to your body. And when I say that, athletes get into this stance where they know what's going on with their body. Steph Curry had the ankle and the leg injury. Durant had an injury this year also. If you look at the Rockets, Paul had a hitch in his giddy up, also Harden. But for the most part, all these guys are ready to play. It's not like someone can say, well, we would have won had we had a DeMarcus Cousins, or we would have won had we had, somebody else that missed the season. So going into this, the mindset for Golden State, they're such a team. And Big C, there's something about, I'm not a homer at all. I just like when I see good teams. And when I hear young AAU boys saying what they love about Golden State is they pass the ball. Everybody gets to touch it. Houston, I think what's going to doom Houston, and I'm just going to go out on a limb. I get this from my friend in Las Vegas. He said, just go Golden State in 6 games. And he pointed out to me, well, I didn't give him any money yet, Big Z, but he pointed out that if you have 2 guys that you can count on, without them, you're going to lose. That's Harden and that's Paul. Everybody knows that. If you have a way of shutting down one of those 2 guys, now you got one player trying to beat you. If you're Golden State and you're a coach, Big C, who do you shut down when you got 4 other guys that are all-star players that if they just play their game, then it looks like it's going to go in their favor, plus they have the experience of being here many times before. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Golden State, Charlton, you look at an unselfish organization. It's what you look at. It's like what I spoke about moments ago. When you say this is an organization that has seen the best of the NBA for 4 years. Everybody who faces them, Charlton, has brought out their best to knock these guys off. When you have these banners hanging up in your arena, they're not just hanging up there for a reason. I mean, it reminds me of what Kobe said when teams are hanging divisional banners.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors are hanging championship banners, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
That's all that matters.
It's the championship house. And so the road to the Larry O'Brien Trophy goes through Golden State. When you look at it as a whole, this you look at this series more as the NBA title, and whoever's coming out of the East is anticlimactic, just like last season, Charlton, when you looked at these two teams.
Yeah.
Everybody said that Houston and Golden State was for the NBA title, and whoever represented from the East would be anticlimactic, which it was. And so when you look at the firepower of these two organizations, they have a lot more than what you see coming out of the East. I mean, LeBron is just LeBron. I mean, there's no answer for him.
Yes.
When you look at the Celtics, this is a young team that's playing above their years. And so this is what you're looking at with this organization. Will they wear each other out coming out of this series? If this series goes 6 games, Charlton, the winner may be a little tired coming out of there.
Well, we know that's the case too. But I got to bring up your thoughts on my friend down from I don't know why he calls me. I'm not moving to Las Vegas. That commercial that Charlton Heston had back in the day, he kept this guy named Johnny said, "Man, I love you, man. I love you, man." He said, "You're not getting my Bud Light, Johnny, okay?" This guy that calls me, he's not getting me to move to Vegas, Big C, unless the money's right, okay, Big C? But he said, have you noticed, and of course we do, the number 1 seed from the Eastern Conference is gone in Toronto. They didn't even make it to the conference finals. And that shows you how dominant a player is. And I just want to draw this contrast in LeBron James and Harden, because they're the talk of the town when you say who's going to be the NBA's prodigal child this year. Will it be LeBron James, who everybody knows is the best player in the universe? LeBron James is. And then Harden. Well, LeBron James, and of course Kevin Love helped, and of course his posse helped him. I don't mean posse the way that Phil Jackson meant posse, basically. I meant his homeboys, his teammates, okay? But the number 1 seed is out. Could you imagine if the number 1 seed is knocked out of the NFL playoffs? And could you imagine if the number 1 seed is knocked out of hockey? Or if the number 1 seed is knocked out of boxing? If you think about it, that happened because of one person. I'm not saying he did it on his own. But that effort of LeBron James was enough to undo a number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And maybe they'll knock off the number 2 seed if Boston advances. But give me your thought on how dynamic and iconic it is to have one person be responsible for beating the number 1 seed. Have you ever seen that in the history of basketball, Big C? Your thoughts?
There's something synonymous about and Cleveland series is coming up with LeBron.
Yes.
He's been in the league.
See, we're having a little bit of trouble with your microphone. Go right ahead, sir. I got your back. See, we're having a little bit of trouble with your microphone. Go right ahead, sir.
There's something ironic about this series, with Boston and potentially playing Cleveland in this next round, Charlton being up 3-1 over Philadelphia. LeBron's been in the league 15 years, okay?
Yeah.
15 years. This is the first time in 15 years, Charlton, that he has not missed a game. He has not missed a playoff game. He has played every game that they've had a tip-off for the Cleveland Cavaliers this year.
That's amazing.
So you think about how prescient that is, Charlton, and his dominance. This has been the most dominant career season of his career. You think about that. And he's not, throughout the season he wasn't being considered for the MVP of the league.
Crazy.
Even though his numbers were probably the best of his career when you think about what he's done. And in the playoffs, they've been the best of his playoff career, Charlton. But, on the flip side, when you look at Boston, you talked about the number 2 seed having a chance to be playing in the conference final also, Charlton, in Boston. You think about somebody who started in Boston 15 years ago. That was Danny Ainge. 15 years ago, he was signed as the GM of the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
And you see where he's methodically put this organization together, Charlton, through some timely trades and great draft picks and hiring of a marvelous head coach, Brad Stevens, who was named NBA Coach of the Year today, Charlton.
Congratulations.
You think about how these two are tied at the hip, and no one looks at it from that. They've both built up to this crescendo together. Danny Ainge has been chasing LeBron his entire career, being the GM of the Boston Celtics. Is this his time, Charlton, to move beyond the greatness of LeBron James and get the Celtics back into the NBA Finals, Charlton?
That would be an iconic move that would send shockwaves, because just the way everybody's playing right now, people still want to see. And as much as I love LeBron James, I really don't want to see another Golden State and Cleveland finals. I think it's like some of these programs out there. It's the same thing, one after the other. They're all the same. I think for the NBA is I don't think we'll see both Golden State and Cleveland in the finals this year. And I know a lot of people want to see both of that happen. Maybe it will happen, but for TV purposes, you're gonna sell your league. You can't just sell them on. You have stores, Big C. You've owned restaurants. You don't just have two things on the menu 4 years in a row, Big C. You tend to mix it up. On one plate, on one minute you got some hog head cheese. You guys have some alligator. You got octopus, what they call calamari down there. You got that catfish, what they call catfish bottom dwellers. You guys got that. You got all kind of fresh meat down there. Not just two things. You think Silver's getting that message? Because my friend from Las Vegas is saying you're not going to see Golden State in Cleveland again. I said, what do you mean? They're playing the best basketball. He said, no, it's not good for the league. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's hard to say whether it's not good for the league. I mean, Boston has always been an attractive draw when it comes to NBA Finals because they have more than anybody else. But, this thing about LeBron, who is so outstanding as a player, and he brings so much drama to whatever event he's in. When you look at Boston, I mean, it would be great for historical reasons with Boston. But who's the marketability in Boston? I mean, when you look at, you got a lot of young kids that are really not household names.
No.
When you look at Boston. So when you look at the marketability of both Western Conference teams, Charlton, you have superstars on both of those. When you look at Chris Paul, you look at James Harden. You look at Golden State. You got Curry. You got Durant. You got Green. I mean, these guys are marketable household names.
Yeah.
When you go to Boston, you got Tatum, you got Rozier, you got Horford. Not that they're not great NBA players, Charlton, but who's on there that you're looking at Madison Avenue of marketing?
That's a good point.
That's the thing that you're looking at. The NBA needs to sell its product, Charlton. It's nice to have new blood in playoffs. And when you look at Toronto, how would the NBA market Toronto if they were in the NBA Finals, Charlton? Think about how dastardly that may be for the league to handle that. You're marketing another country, Charlton, and possibly representing them as your NBA champ.
Yeah.
Where's the marketability in the U.S.? How many people in the U.S. are going to buy Toronto Raptors paraphernalia? I mean, you can walk around the NBA now as it is, Charlton, in all of its cities. See how much Toronto Raptor clothing that you see anywhere, Charlton, around in NBA cities. These are things that concern the business aspect of everything. The fans, you always love it for the fans.
Yes.
But when you look at the business end of things, it's like when the Cavaliers beat Golden State 2 years ago, Charlton. That was the business end of things. The marketing outside after the game and the series was over, Charlton. How much Cleveland paraphernalia were you going to sell worldwide, United States-wise, and even in Canada, Charlton?
Yeah.
Because they had now won a title. And think about it. It had been 48 years since that city had won a title of any time.
Yeah.
Any kind.
Yeah.
And the Cavaliers had never won a title. So when you look at a first, as far as what it does, putting a city on the map, a region on the map. But if the Toronto Raptors had made the NBA Finals, think about that. How marketable would that have been? Would the NBA taken a huge financial hit, Charlton, if that team had got past Cleveland?
I think that's why sometimes they don't get the calls, Big C, that we say, was that a foul? What's a foul, Big C? So I think you made a good point. I do want to draw on some conclusions. I talk to a lot of women that follow basketball, men too, but sometimes you got to get both genders. We follow both genders on Big C Sport. I tell you, Dr. Ruth Westheim was one of my heroes growing up, Big C. When I ask women, and any woman around the world can ask this. And, I mean, this is just, I'm going to throw it in there because I hear women talking about it, Big C. What guy would women want to date on one of those teams? Is it Chris Paul that never smiles? I mean, this brother, he's so macabre, he never smiles, Big C. Not that it matters. Does he ever even laugh at his commercials? No. James Harden, have you ever seen him smile? Now, this is coming from women. This is not Big C saying, I don't really care if they smile or not, as long as they play. But women say they never smile. So how's a guy that never smiles? They want to play that macabre, I'm tough mentality, that athlete that takes a picture, and you always see is like a mugshot. And this is coming from women, okay? A whole diaspora of women. Is that what the NBA wants to market? Two guys sitting up looking like everything they do. is a mugshot, and I really didn't look too much at that until I started looking at it. When I look at guys like Steph Curry or Durant or Thompson, they, for Golden State, at least you see them smile, especially Steph Curry, with his beautiful daughter, his beautiful family. When you want to market your product all over the world, not just in the United States, women are a big part in what men do. Women are a big reason that men even take a bath, Big C. You guys take a bath because a lot of women, they want to roll with you guys, Big C, from what I understand, Big C. So when women say, out here at least on the West Coast, where they want to see people smile, those brothers look too macabre, and that's why maybe they won't get some of the calls that we expect them to get coming down the stretch. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, personality has a lot to do with marketing. And when you look at how officials look at things over the years, I mean, you go back to Magic Johnson, who had this dynamic smile. I mean, he could light up a room whenever he walked in. He was always enjoying himself, even when he was having a bad moment during a basketball game. And you look at how the Lakers elevated themselves once he became a part of that franchise, Charlton. But you have to have a personality now, especially in sports. You get challenged by the officials, and they challenge them back. But personality goes a long way. We think about the marketability of King James.
Yeah.
How his personality has elevated over the years from just doing regular commercials. Now he's a brand. When you look at him on television, he's a brand. He's a household marketing item, Charlton. And that's what has happened with players who've had personality when we see them in the mainstream commercials, Charlton. It carries a lot. And when you're talking about representing an organization, a city, and the league, Charlton, this is what they look for, personalities. That's the one thing that the NBA pushes on harder than anything else.
I agree.
Is personalities. If you look at the commercials throughout the playoffs, they basically come down to personalities, and you'll see a lot more of them over the next couple of weeks, Charlton. But it's going to be the personalities that the NBA is looking for to keep it high on that Madison Avenue chart.
I think you just touched on something. And because Big C Sports, we are such an advocate for women. All of us have mothers, and we all love our mothers. They go through so much for us, and they go through so much raising kids and grandkids. And we give a shout out to all the mothers all over the universe, Big C Sports, loving to every mother out there. We hope that you love Big C Sports because we keep it real and we always honor you. And when I hear people saying, because I want to touch this angle that a lot of people never really think about, Madison Avenue in the NBA, Madison Avenue in all sports, no matter what region of the world you're from, a smile goes a long way. Seeming like you're enjoying yourself goes a long way, because a lot of people, they pay attention to what's going on. Even if you watch a lot of sports programs, there's hardly anybody that laughs and smiles. It's as if everybody is so serious and so macabre that they have nothing to be grateful for. And sometimes you just want to be like a little child in the playground sometimes. When you see kids out laughing, when you see kids out playing, sometimes it can lift your spirits. And that's what a lot of young kids do. And a lot of kids need to see that when they look up and see their heroes. That thing that Magic Johnson did. Is he always that happy? Probably not. You know, they were cheated out of a couple of championships by some of those good old boys on the East Coast. But he made you love basketball because he greeted everybody with that big, bright smile. No wonder he has over 5 championships. Sometimes you get the benefit of the call. Another thing I'm hearing, too, from my guy in Las Vegas. Now, he may be wrong. He was wrong once, but see, he's 9-1 against the right-wrong category. But this flop, this fake, hey, you touch me, I'm going to fall down like I was hit by Mike Tyson, that's not going to work in the Western Conference Finals, according to a lot of the players. The officials are hip to that. If you're going to get fouled, it better be a foul. But faking like you're a foul, throwing your arms, flailing in the air, is not going to work because they're going to be all over that. Big C, do you think that hurts Houston, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a game of seriousness when it gets down to that point in the season. I think the officials are going to allow the players to play. I mean, we've seen some tough basketball thus far in the playoffs, and especially in the Eastern Conference. The things that have been allowed to take place, and especially in that so-called fight a couple of nights ago with Rozier and Embiid.
Was that a fight?
It looked like 2 3-year-olds going at it in preschool.
Yeah.
But that's the NBA. And I mean, to err on the side of caution, you think about it. Generally, if you throw a punch as an NBA player, you get a 2-game suspension.
Yep.
You know, Rozier threw 2 of them.
Yep.
And all he got was a technical foul. He threw 2 punches at Embiid.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have to, as an official, back away a little bit this time of the year.
Yes.
Allow the players to play. As Larry Bird said, do you think they came here to see you call sticking fouls, or they came here to see me score points?
Yep.
And so that's what the officials have a mindset to do.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen Cleveland get away with a lot in their series against your boys up in Old Canada.
Canada.
But,
yeah.
This is what the game is about.
Yes.
Let professionalism, be on display.
Yeah.
Let it take the grandiose stage.
Well, yeah.
The officials sit back. We shouldn't even know that they're on the court.
Yeah.
I mean, no player should have more than 2, maybe 3 fouls at all in this series, but we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the officials will call some fictitious foul that didn't even occur.
And yet
they'll let the hard stuff get away.
I recall growing up playing some basketball out of California, especially in Oakland. A lot of playgrounds in Oakland will be full of players just playing basketball. They don't call fouls necessarily. It's a rough foul. You got to be a man, like John Madden said one time in the football play. You got to be a man to go across the middle, Big C. So a lot of guys know what that means. And I hope the officials keep the whistle in your pocket. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't call for people taunting you and making sure you saw that. Yeah, they saw it. I hope that both teams are allowed to play. I want to swing your thoughts to the final series that's going to determine who's going to get into the Eastern Conference Finals. Philadelphia and Boston. There's so much to be said about Philly woke up. They changed a few things in their last game. Boston may have the experience, but Philly has the youth. It's like that old bull and that new bull story that you talked about. You run down the hill and enjoy yourself. If you're the young bull, the old bull walks down and enjoys everything. If you're the old bull, give me your thoughts on Boston and Philadelphia. It seems like Philly's the better athlete team. They're the better athletically, but Boston seems maybe they're the best coach. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think these teams are basically equal when it comes to athleticism because they're both young.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a process with both organizations. It's just people have put more emphasis on the 76ers about their process, how they've developed. But, you look at Boston, they've gone under the radar. Charlton, last year, they finished second in the Eastern. Well, actually, they won the Eastern Division last year.
Yeah.
This year, they finished second. So when you look at a process that has gotten to that point in Boston, this has been the development by Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens of this franchise over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
They've had that same process that Philadelphia's has. And matter of fact, even in the draft this past season, they hoodwinked.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, they said, okay, we'll trade. We're going to get the player we want anyway, so we'll let you take Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
Markelle Fultz has been watching the game all season long like the fans.
Yeah, he sure has.
And Jason Tatum has been playing at an all-rookie caliber all year long, and even in the playoffs, he's been one of the leaders of this franchise. So when we talk about the maturation of Danny Ainge, who's now in his 15th year, along with LeBron James in the league,
yes,
doing what they do well, we can see how Danny Ainge has grown up and made this a viable organization in Boston.
Yeah.
But the process in Philadelphia, they've had some coaching problems, Charlton. That's what has hurt them in the playoffs, is that their coach has just been out-coached night in and night out in this series. I mean, they won this last game, but was that just an extension for Boston to get home and finish this series at home?
Well,
as we talked about with Golden State and Houston,
yeah,
wanting to win out in front of their home fans, Charlton, I kind of think that. I think tonight is it for the 76ers. They played gallantly. They've been in a couple games, but the process was not mature enough to finish the process.
I think you made a very good point when you brought up Joel Embiid saying just recently they don't need anybody else, that they have everything they need, and even veteran players. Now, contrast that to Golden State. When Golden State, played and won a championship, they went and got Durant, and they bring Durant onto the team, and they won with him, okay? They were still saying we still need something, even though they had a championship under their belt and were upset in another one by the NBA when they got rid of Draymond Green for hitting the LeBron James in his vibranium, okay? Big C, if you can use that for lack of a better term. No grabbing the vibranium this series, Draymond Green. But when you think about that, Embiid saying, no, we don't need anything, everybody needs something. We all need something. Everybody, no matter what you're dealing with in life, we need something. And when you know you need something, you ask for it. If it's not there, ask somebody else. Go find someone who wants to come to your team. And I don't know if that was a silent shot to his organization saying we don't need LeBron if he can be here next year. Maybe that was a way of saying, I want to be the king of the house here. I don't know what that was, but I think he's learning that he made a mistake by saying that. Because when you're telling yourself that, number one, that means you're not willing to listen. Big C, that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, young players, Charlton, have all the ego in the world. They're at a point now where no one can tell them anything because they become instant millionaires. So they got all of what they always fantasize about in life. The one thing they don't have, though, is those championship pedigrees, Charlton. That's what you have with these young players. And when you look at the NBA over the last decade, the teams that have won championships, Charlton, have been willing to go out and get that final piece of the puzzle to put it in play. Whether you're looking at the Dallas Mavericks, whether you're looking at the Miami Heat, the San Antonio Spurs, Charlton, the Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they've all gone out and made trades to get those final pieces to put them in place, to sign that free agent.
Yeah.
They haven't worried about the veterans that they have on staff already. You think about when Golden State won their first championship, Charlton, they were a young team. Who'd they go out and get? Andre Iguodala.
Sure did.
They went out and brought him in, a former All-Star in Philadelphia, to help the process in Golden State to stabilize the young players that they had. You talked about they brought in Durant for the last championship, Charlton. You look at what Cleveland did in their championship move, Charlton, bringing in veteran players, just as Dallas and San Antonio has done, Charlton, in their runs. Miami put together veteran players to put together a championship run. Boston did it also when they brought in Garnett and Allen.
Yeah.
They put the players together, Charlton, to put the final pieces of the puzzle together. And that's what you have to look at in the NBA. It's always great to have an organization. I mean, you see it in football, you see it in hockey, you see it in baseball. The Houston Astros last year, what did they get? They went out and got Verlander, Charlton, who hadn't lost a game when he came to the organization. I mean, and pushed them through over the top to the World Series title, Charlton.
Yeah.
You go out and you get the players you need. What did the Philadelphia Eagles do last year, Charlton? They went out and got Blunt. They went out and got Ajayi. They brought Foles in, Charlton. What they do? Put together a Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
So you have to always think that there's something out there that you're missing, and you bring in the right piece, Charlton, you can win a championship. So the young players in Philadelphia understand the process. You're young. You still have growing pains to go through.
That's all true. And speaking of growing, everybody knows that Ben and Mark is one of the best insurance providers in the universe. And we work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues. When you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. So no matter who you believe in the NBA, my friends down in Las Vegas, man, I'm glad I got unlimited text, Big C. They keep blowing up my cell phone. Hey, I'm not moving to Las Vegas unless... if they offer me Floyd money, Mayweather money, Big C, I go. In fact, if they offer me Pacquiao money, I move to Las Vegas, Big C. Would you go to Vegas, Big C, for Pacquiao money or Mayweather money, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you can get yourself a nice little tattoo down there in the desert with the money from either one of those players, Charlton. I mean, they both have comfortable abodes down there, Charlton, and they're well loved in that community because they put on some great competition over the years in the City of Lights.
Yeah, well, City of Lights. Give me $1 billion and I'll go to Las Vegas, Big C. I want to thank all the people who love sports because it makes our job really easy. We love sports. We love the political angle. A lot of things going on in POTUS. So people keep Googling what's going on when it comes to our elected officials. But I want to also swing up north a little bit. And because hold on, I'm getting I just got somebody hit me up on the phone and they said, can you sing "Oh Canada, our home and native land"? That's from Winnipeg. I just got a tweet out from Winnipeg. Big C, they wanted me to shout out "Oh Canada." They play tomorrow and they're playing against the good old boys from the Moonshine State down in Nashville. And I know you love hockey. It's amazing how many good old boys down south love hockey, and I was really surprised until I saw how you were into it. But hockey's a great sport. They do it on ice. And, Canada, this is a shout out for Canada. Winnipeg right now is representing the entire country of Canada. We have the CFL start up in July, but right now, I mean, in the playoff wise, you still have baseball going on with the Blue Jays, but they need a win, Big C. If not, Canada becomes irrelevant for the playoffs in the NHL. That would be almost anathema for the NHL to be playing in the playoffs, pursuing Lord Stanley's Cup, and there's no team from Canada. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you think about how sad it's been, the state of hockey, when it comes to the chase for Lord Stanley's Cup over the last several years in the NHL, Charlton, that you've had all these southern teams that have been in the NHL championship, Charlton, even Nashville last year was in the Stanley Cup finals. You know, I mean, they just a border jump away from, you know, Trump putting up a wall.
Yes.
But, you know, when you think about this, this is the first Game 7 that the Winnipeg Jets will be in their franchise history in a finals.
Yeah.
And so you think about having the whole weight of Canada on your back, the team that's in the middle of the country up there out in the middle of nowhere. I think they say they're so flat up there you can see the dog run away for 3 days.
So does that mean that Kyrie Irving's right, the earth is flat, Big C, that you can see it run for 3 days, Big C?
You know, but one thing, I mean, they hold all the hopes of Canada, as you said, you know, on their collective hockey sticks. And, you know, they're going down to Nashville, a team that knows what it's like to go through a Game 7 in a series, Charlton, led by P.K. Subban, Charlton. This is a team that wants to get back to where they were last year. They felt they had unfinished business against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been eliminated by Washington.
Yeah.
And so the Predators are hoping not to be eliminated by the Jets.
You know how we always say you got to know when you're being prayed? You got to know when somebody's praying. And there's two kind of praise. It's a double entendre. You can pray for people in church, but usually you got to pay money for that. But you can also prey on somebody like a lion hunts down his prey to eat it. And for the Predators, I just thought, you know, football is king in the South. Everybody knows that. College is loved even more than NFL down south. So what is it about hockey, Big C? I don't think a lot of good old boys grew up, you know, swinging a stick at a hockey puck, mostly at a baseball, but not a hockey puck or even at a golf ball. What is it about hockey that's grabbed the attention of the South so much that people are talking? I think they went one day without talking about football in the South, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at the great joy of ice, all right? When a hockey game is going on, you can make a snow cone. I mean, they're playing ice all over the place. You see it flying. But not only that, Charlton, after the event, just think about the cocktail party that you can have afterwards.
Yeah.
So that really excited a lot of Southerners, is that you got all this great ice that you don't want to go to waste. So you can have a large cocktail. You know, we used to have these open pit barbecues.
Yep.
So, you know, you got a lot of meat, you got a lot of ice to cool down some drinks. And so that has drawn a lot of Southerners into this game of hockey. And to see how fast it is, you got people making left turns all the time. Half the time they just in a NASCAR race.
That's funny. I also just had an epiphany. When they said we're going to be playing on ice, all the fishermen showed up and threw their catfish out there. There were some good old boys bringing catfish to the game. No, you put your catfish on ice, but this is for hockey. Can they explain that, Big C? Not to bring your catfish to the game, and some good old boys brought them while they were alive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, reading's fundamental. And so unless you read the brochure and the program, people don't always get a clear understanding. People speak differently in different parts of the country. And when they talk about putting the fish on ice, that's what we do. We catch them, we throw them on ice, you know, to preserve them, and we get them back to where they're going to enjoy dinner with us, okay?
That's funny.
And so they were going to the hockey game, and like I said, all this ice out there, and they're thinking, okay, we bring the drinks, we got the fish, everything's ready to go.
I just got to say to all of our fine people all over the universe, especially those that follow Big C Sports, May is Mental Awareness Month. And I know that a lot of things going on in the White House to check the mental acuity of a lot of people, Big C. In fact, sometimes when people are writing a check, they think they're writing it for $130. They put an extra zero and it came $130,000. So we really want to have everyone understand this Mental Awareness Month. For all the good people, really go get your checkups if you got to do with that. Big C, I know coming up in the world of golf, a game that you love so much. And in fact, if any people knew how you actually train those hounds to go pick up the golf balls and bring them back, they would understand how you get so many swings in on the golf courses down south. How do you? I know you train rats to bring, not rats, but is it snakes that you were training? You training snakes, Big C? Were you the one that trained those snakes on Sam Jackson's plane when he said, "Get those blankety blank snakes off this blankety blank plane"? Were those Big C snakes, Big C?
we trained them to play handball, so they have to be able to.
Yeah.
And they don't have to go far from the curb to play a little handball. So
Yeah.
we have some very astute snakes down here. They just don't lay out on a rock.
That's funny. Well, speaking of laying down and the clubs, and we know people love golfing. We have a lot of respect for NBA and, of course, baseball. And then football is everyone's number one love, it seems to be in the United States. But around the world, golf is played all over the world, Big C. And when you think about Phil and Tiger getting close to the end of their career, they're going to be paired tomorrow at the opening round of the Players. The two have combined for 19 majors. Tiger has 4 of them. For you good old boys, that means Phil has 5, okay? Just my Google math is working. So, Big C, you've seen these players when they were at the height of their career, Tiger and Phil. I still think both of them have some Masters in them, and I think they both have some majors in them. I still think it'd be great to see them at least win a couple of Masters and majors, of course. What does it mean for you in the height of basketball playoffs that these two iconic golfers are finally paired together as friends and not as adversaries? I think if they understand what they can tend to understand as we get older, the game is more important than the ego. And golf is a beautiful game, but it needs an ambassador. The same way a lot of the NBA, they respect their 50 greatest players. Golf doesn't necessarily do that. And to have 2 of the greatest players playing right now, what they're doing is good for golf, whether they really like each other or not. Because you talk about how important that is for the golf universe to see 2 of their most iconic players matched up. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's still the 2 biggest names in golf, and Tiger has won 14 majors, where Phil has won 5. That's where the 19 comes together between these 2 great, phenomenal golfers, Charlton, that we've been fortunate enough to witness over the last 15 years. But when you think about what they mean to the world of golf, to be paired up, in this tournament starting tomorrow, Charlton, going off together, you got to look at the gallery that fishbowl is going to be chasing them around. I mean, and Ricky Fowler, as great a golfer as he is, he's really insignificant in this threesome.
You think so?
When you look at it. I honestly do, because people are coming to see Phil and Tiger play together. You think about the fans that they've developed, Charlton, throughout their career, that they've been must-see golf. I mean, Phil has won once this year. Tiger's been competitive a couple times. And so that's must-see television. It would be wonderful if the PGA would put together a charity game between the 2 and let all the proceeds, Charlton, from the gate go to charity. We talk about Mental Awareness Month, Charlton.
Yeah.
Let it go to something that would be special and meaningful to, American society. Maybe even an Alzheimer's Association, Charlton, that they could do a charity. You're telling me that television would not put that on, that the nation would not be captivated seeing Tiger and Phil go head-to-head, winner takes all, or they have a bet on every hole, whatever, to go back and forth? I think, when we look at sports in America, you think about how big the fantasy leagues now, Charlton. Fantasy leagues now are bigger than the actual leagues, as far as betting and money that's put forth. But to have these 2 iconic figures before their time has been used up on the golf course, to have a heads-up match, Charlton, for 18 holes.
Yes.
You talk about ratings. As far as television, I think there would be a bidding war between all the networks on who could carry that, Charlton.
Bixie, I think you made a great point. At some time in life, we got to change what we do. You got to have faith no matter what it is. You got to believe, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what you're going through, you got to believe. And for the world of golf, sometimes you got to change things. Baseball's always tinkering with the rules. The NFL's tinkering with, will they take away the kickoff? If they really care about the players, yes, they will. If they don't care about the players, no, they won't. Baseball, they think about the players because they have a helmet when you're in the batter's box now, and the catcher has a mask on. If you think about the safety of people, basketball is also trying to make the game a little bit more safer, where you don't play as physical as they did back in the day because players are a lot bigger and stronger now. So when it comes to golf, if you can manufacture things the way boxing manufactures fights, You can manufacture where you always have the best playing against the best. Don't wait until they retire and then they all get together and see how much affinity they had for each other. You can have affinity for people now. It's like telling people you love them. You tell people you love them because you want them to know that. Golf it needs Phil and Tiger to say we love the golf game so much that we're going to do something for the fans. And they could do it at least twice a year or more, where it's not just about the tradition of golf that nobody's really watching. And that's a fact. You can look at the TV ratings and Google that. How would they make that happen, Big C? The way they do it for boxing. And we just saw that in Mayweather. And we saw that with that good old boy that cusses a lot that came out of Ireland and McGregor. Yeah, McGregor and Mayweather. Now, I never heard anyone talk like that, but why has it taken so long for anyone to even conclude that they should do more specialty events? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you've never had two golfers like this in modern times. You can talk about Arnold and Jack, but you did not have the television following that these two great golfers have created, Charlton. And if you put together a weekend event, Charlton, between these two golfers, that, you play on a Saturday and Sunday, and if it ends up tied, you have a playoff, Charlton.
Yeah.
Just like in a normal golf tournament. But if you put Tiger and Phil together on a Saturday and Sunday, you're talking about must-see television. You think about once the NBA playoffs is over.
Yes.
And the NHL playoffs is over, Charlton. Yes, you have baseball. But that's a long, tedious process, Charlton, sitting up watching a baseball game on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And maybe not the best teams are on television. The NFL preseason is on. Yee-hoo. We have to begin.
Hold on, Big C. Did you sneeze? Bless you, Big C. Bless you. I thought you said you sneeze, or did you wee-hoo or sneeze? Which one was it, Big C?
Well, but Charlton, you think about it. I would love to have the promotional rights to a Tiger and Phil event for a 2-day event on Saturday and Sunday on television.
I'd watch it.
I would love to be the promoter to put that together, Charlton. When you think about the sponsorship revenue that would come in, the must-see of endorsements that want to be a part of that event, Charlton, because it's historical.
Yeah.
And, we don't do enough historical things in American society. But all golf enthusiasts, even though they're both on the downside of their career, Charlton,
yeah,
it would be must-see television.
Well, I think that would definitely be must-see TV. And everybody, when you think about must-see TV, we have Mother's Day weekend coming up on Sunday, and we want to take the last couple of days to wish every mother in the universe a happy Mother's Day coming up on Charlton and Big C Sports. For all of the people who love their mothers, pick up the phone and tell them. Don't just think they know, tell them. The same way we always tell you, follow Big C Sports. Big C, final story I want to close out on baseball. We love baseball. There have been 3 no-hitters in baseball this year, all in 3 different countries: Mexico, the United States of America, and last night, Canada, the Blue Jays pitcher James Paxton, a no-hitter at 17 strikes out. And just give me your thoughts on how important that is when basketball is dominating the universe, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, in baseball this season, pitching has dominated. When you think about the number of strikeouts that it's been this season, Charlton, and Paxton last night with a no-hitter. I mean, this is a guy, ever since that eagle landed on his back up in Seattle, he's been lights out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone 6 innings as a no-hitter, 7 innings as a no-hitter, and then last night to go a complete game no-hitter with 17 strikeouts. So he's been on a roll, Charlton. That old Canada, I don't know if the bald eagle is a representative of that country.
No,
he got a little uplifting from that. But,
yeah.
You just think about it. That's one of the greatest feats in baseball. Everyone talks about that long home run, when somebody hits it 450 feet. Is the ball juice? Is the bat juice? Is the player juice?
Yes.
But, when you're striking out 17 players, Charlton, throwing a no-hitter in, a lot of people say, well, it wasn't that dramatic. Yes, it is.
It was,
because
course
no one
it is.
could hit him.
Yeah.
No one could hit him. You didn't have to worry about his infielders or his outfielders, fumbling on a ball and possibly making a mistake. He took care of business by himself. He was a one-man band. And so only 11 balls got into play all night long, Charlton. He took care of the other 17 by himself. But just a tremendous night for Mr. Paxton up north, across the border where we haven't built the wall yet, playing up there in Toronto.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, he probably soaked up a few teary eyes that were still on display from that Raptors game, and I think the Raptors had more people in the stadium than what the Blue Jays did last night, Charlton, in their last game.
That's so funny. So as we close out the day on a beautiful May the 9th, 2018 on Big C Sports, I do want to say, and as we celebrate, we just came out of Cinco de Mayo. We want to celebrate Mother's Day in advance for all the beautiful mothers out there. You know who you are. If you're anywhere around the world, tell your mother, or if you are a mother, tell them that we said Happy Mother's Day from Big C Sports, the #1 sports show in the universe. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking forward to the wrapping up of the Eastern Conference basketball series tonight between Philadelphia and Boston, and getting on with Game 1 in the first part of the week is Cleveland. But we also, on Monday night, we have the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets tipping it off in Game 1 of the Western Conference Final, Charlton.
Well, I tell you, we're all looking forward to that, and you can look forward to, as we say again, Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there coming up on Mother's Day weekend from Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.